Most people, whenever they think about horse riding, end up automatically thinking about rodeos or racing around a track like thoroughbreds do. Well, there are over 20 styles of riding, such as vaulting, which is gymnastics on horse, polo-cross, which is lacrosse on horseback, and then there's reining, which is another form of rodeo, but not just barrel racing. There's also a sport called eventing that dates back all the way to the British cavalry whenever they were preparing for battle. Well, eventing has 3 phases: dressage, cross country, and stadium jumping. The first phase is dressage. In dressage, you're given a test to memorize, and once you memorize that test, you are to perform it in front of a judge who has a specific rule book that they have to follow. They judge you based on the qualities that are set in the rule book and the guidelines, and you have to time each specific movement that they ask you to at the specific time that they ask you to. In the dressage world, there is a arena that you are to perform the test in where there are letters around the arena. You are supposed to perform your test by at each letter having a different maneuver to execute. And so then they score you based on a range from 0 to 100 and subtract it from 100 to give you a penalty score. That penalty score is going to be used in the overall analysis of how you do over the weekend. The person with the lowest penalty score, which also means the highest dressage score, is the one that is going to win the competition. So some horses excel at their willingness to listen to you in dressage, but then lack in the next 2 phases because they don't trust you well enough to be able to jump the obstacles as you ask them to. The next phase is cross country, which is the biggest test of the horse's trust for the rider, because they have natural obstacles like big ponds to run through or banks to jump up or ditches to jump over, and horses have a lack of depth perception. So whenever you ask them to jump over a ditch, even though it just looks like a small little hole to you, to the horse, it could look like the Grand Canyon. And so the horse really has to trust you whenever they're doing this, and it's over such a long period of time that they have to run it, like whenever you run 6 miles at a race. That's a long distance to you. Well, the horse has to run from 1,400 meters at the lowest level to 4,400 meters at the highest level. And they have to do it within a certain amount of time. And so they have to jump the specific obstacle course that the judge sets for you previously, and those things include natural logs too and brushes. So a lot of times the professional riders will actually put grease on the bottom of their horse's stomachs in order to help the horse glide over the brush easier so it doesn't cut their skin. And so this test is used to test the endurance of the horse and see if they're able to run over the battlefield as need be, no matter how long the distance is. The next phase is stadium jumping. In stadium jumping, they give you a specific course in an arena, and the jumps are set at varying heights compared to what level you are jumping at that time, what level you are performing at that time. They give you a max amount of time that you're supposed to do it in to make sure that your horse has the strength to go over those obstacles and to do it within a certain amount of time in order, so they're not just lackadaisy run through the course. They actually have to have the strength to rebound from the day before. This also tests their agility because there are such things called rollbacks and bent lines and stuff like that. And a rollback is where you have one jump here, and then as soon as you land, you have to roll back. Basically, you have to land and automatically turn to jump a jump that's literally right behind the one that you just jumped. So the horse has to be able to turn on their haunches and do whatever you ask them to whenever you ask them to. So if a horse knocks a rail during this maneuver or refuses to jump something, like in cross country, if a horse refuses to jump something, it costs 20 penalty points because it's going to really hurt if you fall off. It's a really dangerous part of the test. And so then in stadium jumping, it only costs 4 penalty points for a knocked rail because it's not really as serious. It won't hurt you as much. So in conclusion, eventing is a good sport to get into if you're thinking about going back in history, and it's one of the most strenuous parts of horse riding. Thank you.